Hi, how are you? It's Gail here from Radio Kidnappers, Voice of Hawke's Bay, Community Radio. Lovely to have you listening, and if you've got video, thank you for watching. Today, we're halfway through the month. So at the beginning of the month, I do kind of what's happening in the month generally, what's likely to happen for you. But halfway through the month, we do other things. And today I decided to do something around spiritual awakening. Now, this isn't airy-fairy. This is an actual event that happens to a lot of people every day all around the world. It may have happened to you as well, and you may not know what that was. So a spiritual awakening is a moment when you feel something more, something about a oneness, a connectedness, a feeling of, sometimes it can give you a feeling of euphoria, of bliss, of absolute unconditional love and of peace. It is an experience where you can feel that you are everything and everything is you, as was in my case. And I'll talk a little bit about what I myself personally experienced in my life, and maybe in the next session, if I don't get round to it this session. I probably will. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath because one, I'm running late, and two, I ran and the body doesn't run anymore. So if I'm puffing, apologise. So I've written some notes down and I've got them in front of me just to kind of help keep me a little bit on track, which I've already, I'm diverging. When you have a spiritual awakening, you don't make this happen. You can do all of the going to church, reading the Bible, and never ever have one. This is something that just happens randomly, spontaneously, to individuals at different times in their lives. It may be due to a traumatic event, could be to do with losing someone, having some accident, or going through a real change in life where everything that you knew that made sense suddenly isn't working, isn't happening, isn't moving forward. And you know, there's a lot of you people through this whole COVID experience where your jobs have changed, your relationships have changed, where our lives have changed and still are changing. And you may not even have had one of these spiritual awakenings even so. So I want to kind of explain a little bit about how you can identify that. So for one thing, it is something that kind of just happens. It actually is a feeling, an awareness of more, something outside yourself, something bigger than you, something more extraordinary than the washing, which we know there's a lot more that's extraordinary rather than the washing. But even to do with human affairs and politics and the things that are happening in the world, it takes you beyond the importance of those things. It gives you a perspective, a higher perspective is what we say, of other things that are, how can I explain it? See, that's why I wrote some words down, because I kind of get lost in my own speak sometimes. And sometimes there's words that can describe it better. What did I write? See, now I've got to look. But with a spiritual awakening, it's often this expansion, this connectedness gives you like a oneness experience. It gives you a feeling of connectedness to the universe, to the divine, to God, to an isness. Everything exists in this moment of time. There is no separation between past, future, and present. There is no separation between you and the wall, you and an insect, you and the information around you that comes to you every day in little bits and pieces. But this awareness, this oneness, gives you all the information in an instant. You feel it, see it, know it, understand it, all in that experience, no matter how long that lasts. And you never lose it. You never ever forget it. It is, it happens to you rather than you seeking it out. And like I said, trauma can be one of the reasons that you connect with it. Another one can just simply be you have evolved to a point in yourself, in your being, in your life, and in your understanding when you have a realization. And this is an expansive realization. And I know that many of you actually have had these experiences, but we can't talk about them because nobody gets it. Or if we talk about it, nobody gets it. And there are no words that can completely describe the experience. It is nothing of this world, but it is this world plus and everything in it. There's no separation between this existence and your existence as a spiritual being, which you are, because we've talked about this before. You are more than your humanness. You are a spiritual being. People don't really know you. They know you by your behaviour and characteristics, but they don't know you, and you will have felt this in your life. We all feel at some points that people just don't get us, and that's because they simply can't. We are taught in life to be very linear in our thinking, very human in our viewpoints, and yet there's so much more to us. It's because it cannot be categorised, it cannot be explained easily, that there hasn't even been a huge amount of research done on it. But these are actual experiences which are part of your life. So this is just about spiritual awakening, which is what it's called, or the raising of the Kundalini, if you have heard of that. These are two separate but same experiences. And they are about your spiritual evolvement, your spiritual growth, your realisation of beingness, that you are more than this person, this body, this job, this environment. And it helps you to understand what else you can do, what else you're capable of, it gives meaning to your life, that there is actual meaning. And if you've lost meaning in your life and lost the sense of who am I and what am I doing here and what's the point, then I'm just encouraging you to even read about spirituality, other people's spiritual experiences, because there's hundreds and hundreds, and well, there's millions of them actually, of individual people on different platforms. We've got the internet, it's so brilliant that we do, that you can read about people's personal experiences. And if you kind of go back about 10 years, they're authentic experiences. So yeah, people these days dramatise things and want to get on a bandwagon. And so there are some things out there that are not authentic. But I trust you to know which ones are authentic, which ones resonate with you and which ones don't. The ones that don't resonate. So it may be possible, but you need more proof. Just keep reading. You'll find things that do either kind of directly relate to that or debunk it. What else did I write about this? Because the words were, and I'll read these words. So a spiritual awakening is described as a person's ego. So ego is sense of identity, but it's an immature sense of identity, okay? We have it. Some people have it their whole lives. If you're seeking a spiritual path, if you are looking for more meaning in your life, then you are looking to transcend the ego by finding out who you really are, not how you're being defined in your life. So, spiritual awakening is described as, lost my words, looking for them. Lost them. See, ego transcending your ordinary finite self to encompass a wider, infinite sense of truth or reality. Okay? And these are deeply embodied noetic experiences. And I've told you before that I'm a noetic scientist, and psychic intuitive abilities are what I include in my work. This is one of those all-encompassing, all-pervading kind of experiences that you just can't put adequate words on. Like I've said, I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. But it helps you to understand there is more than life on this planet. There is something of you can call it a creative energy that creates situations, that creates outcomes that seemingly are impossible, and that makes things make sense. How does that happen? What's the linear logic that can explain an epiphany, for instance? You can't make these things happen. And this experience it's like the opening to a whole world of infinite possibilities. You talk about manifesting, you talk about attracting into your life the positive things that you want to happen for yourself. And everyone wants happiness. The possibilities of this are boundless if you have a sense of a creator energy. It can be the universe, it can be God, it can be Allah, it can be Buddha, it can be whatever you perceive as. It can be the power station, like seriously, and you're the battery. It's a bigger entity than you. If you have that perception of something outside yourself that has more power than you, then you are getting to a point of spiritual awareness, just on your own. If you seek it, then you get an understanding of what you're aiming for and what you're trying to understand and perceive. Now, when you have a spiritual awareness experience, or you experience the raising of the Kundalini. Now, the raising of the Kundalini tends to have physical effects on your physical body, but so can a spiritual awakening experience. There was a book I read many, many years ago now called Spiritual Emergence and Spiritual Emergency. And it made complete sense to me about everything that had been happening for me in my life. I always aspired for the spiritual. I disregarded the human, always bumps, bruises, whatever, because of it. And the book just explained a whole lot to me. So a spiritual emergency is when you wake up really quickly spiritually, when you are growing very, very fast, or it's just bang. And often your physical body will need help. You will need physical help from another person to help you in some way, to eat, to drink maybe, or just to do the chores, or just to do other things. And it is harder to function. So it can be very uncomfortable, it can be distressing in some ways. It's because we don't understand what it's all about. A spiritual emergency can take a little while to come through and come back from, but you always come back as, when I say come back, so you always emerge from this as a better version of yourself. You have more understanding, you have more empathy, compassion, you know more somehow. You know what you know and you don't know how you know it. It is not so much like I can predict the future. It's just like that inner sense of knowing what is real, what the truth of our being is. A spiritual emergence happens slowly over time, and it can be over years and years. And it can just be like little moments where you're going through a difficult period in your life and you're struggling and you don't know why this is happening to you or why this is happening again to you, and it is a slow, transformative experience where you are becoming more spiritual every single time. It's about learning and growing, yes, but it's more about the being of you that is lifting, elevating above those kind of human hardships. And those are the two kind of sort of like definitions of spiritual awakening and spiritual emergence. Spiritual emergency and spiritual emergence. So spiritual emergency is a spiritual awakening, okay, but it's more likely to be the raising of the Kundalini. Now, for those of you that don't know what that means, it is said that we have a snake coiled at the base of our spine. I mean, in our culture we go, oh dear, but this is actually very sacred, very spiritual. The snake is very spiritual. And what it does, it's at the base of your spine. And as you grow up, as you learn things, as you develop, as you become more spiritually aware, it travels up your spine. And a Kundalini rising is when the snake actually travels faster up your spine. I perhaps shouldn't say snake, but it is. It's that spiritual awareness travels up your spine. Your spine is what keeps you upright. It keeps you connected with that energy from the Creator to the earth and keeps you in your spirit, in your body. So the raising of the Kundalini is a raising of consciousness, a raising of awareness that can create some physical discomforts. So can spiritual awakening, but perhaps more in a way of an epiphany or an experience where you actually experience a oneness of everything and everyone in this instant, where there is no separation. There are very few words that I have found to describe my own personal experience, except that it was complete. It was total contentment. It was total truth. It was absolutely how things truly, truly are, not with all of this physical distraction or disruption or distress. It just simply was removed of all of those things. No emotion, all feeling, all sense of everything being okay, but more than that. So I'm using very simple words. I'm just going to see what I actually wrote. If I write any better words down, that would be good, wouldn't it? So the words are that it is a direct connection, a oneness experience, spiritual awakening, raising of the Kundalini, brings about a direct connection, communion with an unlimited universal consciousness, the divine or God or Allah, whatever being, entity, understanding that there is. In our culture, my culture, is kind of like disregarding of all of that. And I know there are many, many of you out there from different cultures who do have this spiritual kind of understanding. So you're already kind of aware of the more. For you out there who are just stuck in your everyday physical life where you're not seeming to get anywhere, or things have changed so much that you're scrambling for what to do next, just know there is more. Look for more. Read something spiritual. If it feels airy-fairy, it doesn't matter. Something will connect with you. Some truth will resonate with you. It absolutely will. And that won't necessarily be bring about a spiritual awakening, but it will help you in your life have a different perspective somehow. And if we're struggling, having a different way of looking at things, a different perspective, can pretty much make life so much easier. It can make us feel less pressure. It can make us not so worried about having to find what to do or decide what to do. If you're in a period of change within your life, and we've talked about this over the last 2 years, if you're going through transition, if your life has changed completely or even changing in significant ways, then you are taking that step. And sorry, I lost my words again. So that just happens because I go somewhere else. So I'm trying to keep back here. And the other thing about a spiritual experience, well, just say experiences rather than those dramatic awakenings. A spiritual experience can make you more sensitive to things, light, colour, smells, energies. I say energy, just say vibes. So if you're ultra sensitive to everything, then you are going through a type of spiritual growth period. May not be an awakening, but it is a gradual process of life becoming better for you, more meaningful for you, happier and more contentful for you. And on that note, if you would love to come and, well, actually at the moment I'm doing video messaging, Skype, WhatsApp and phone. That's how I'm doing my sessions for the next couple of weeks still. Contact me on 027 4166 545. I'm Gail and I love you to have a brilliant day. Cheers.